There has to be a moment in every Christian's life where you'll have to take a stand and say, "This far, devil, and no further." And what I mean is that in every walk of life, there are things you can put up with. They may be unpleasant, they may be uncomfortable, but you can put up with certain things. We do this at our jobs, in our marriages, in our business. However, sooner or later, your limits always get tested. The line has to get drawn somewhere, or else it will get crossed. And I believe that there are things that you expect, battles that you know and expect to come with a Christian walk. You know that you'll be persecuted by the world. You know that you will have to take up your cross and put your flesh under subjection. You know you're going to have to forgive when you don't want to. These are part and parcel of the Christian life. And I believe that when Joshua said, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord," he was saying, here is something I won't compromise on. I won't lead my family to betray my God and serve an idol. I won't expose my family by removing them from the protective care of God Almighty, only to serve your ancestors' gods. Saints, we ought to have boundaries. There must be certain things that you say, "No, this isn't for me in my house." Equally, the devil can be daring. He wants to steal, kill, and destroy the family. But we need to be believers who say, "No, this far, Satan, and no further." A father who has been devoted to Christ for decades told a story of how he had, throughout the years, encountered many different types of spiritual attacks. Unexplainable health crises when he was in good shape, when he ate well with no stressful triggers in his life. He'd been through baffling financial attacks. He was earning good money, living below his means, but seemed to always be struggling. All of these battles he overcame through the grace of God. But he told me of one particular attack which in hindsight, he said, was a defining moment in his faith. The devil attacked his children. Kids who were raised in the church, grew up well behaved, they all of a sudden changed. He felt as though he was losing his children. And what was clear is that they had been exposed to something sinister, because it was as though their personalities had completely vanished and they were completely different people. Like any parent, he had a strong love for his children, and being led by the Spirit of God, he knew that if the devil couldn't get to him and break him down, if the devil couldn't get to his wife and crush her, then he was going to try and destroy that home by attacking the kids. This was a spiritual war, and this man said something I'll never forget. He said, "The devil crossed the line and brought out a fight in me that I never knew I had." If you're wondering how the story ends, this family eventually found out that their kids made new friends who introduced them to Ouija boards and opened all kinds of spiritual doors, and by the grace of God, they were delivered. But the point of this story is that, isn't the devil cunning sometimes? Isn't he daring and conniving? At times he attacks those around you in order to try and get to you. Now, the thing is, at some point you and I have to say, "My family is a line you can't cross, devil. My kids are out of bounds. My marriage is off limits." If the attack is aimed directly at me, that's fine. By God's grace and through His strength, I'll deal with it. However, if the attack is aimed at those I love, that's a declaration of war. It's a statement of intent by the enemy because it shows that he really has come to steal, kill, and destroy. And it's in those situations you have to stand and say, "The gates of hell will not prevail." Draw the line to the devil because he's an enemy who doesn't play fair. Should he fail to get to you directly, he will try an alternative route. This is why I believe that when Job lost it all, no kids, no wealth, and even when his health was failing, I believe the devil was irritated that this man was still holding onto his faith. And so, what did he do? He tried to get to him through his wife. The Bible reads in Job 2, verse 9, his wife said to him, "Do you still cling to your integrity and your faith and trust in God without blaming him? Curse God and die." So in your walk with Christ, you'll find that if you don't set boundaries, if you don't set parameters of what you'll tolerate, then you'll have all kinds of things coming to try and influence you. You will have people who will ask you the question, are you still holding on? Are you still holding on to your faith and trusting in God who's allowed this to happen? This is why I believe that the proclamation Joshua said is one that needs to be said among all families in the world today. Joshua 24, verse 15 says, "And if it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your fathers served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." It's a strong and bold declaration, a stance that says, I don't really care what you decide to do in this world. The decision I have made for myself and for my home is to serve Jesus Christ. I don't care who's painting the picture for what a modern-day family looks like. I will serve the Lord. I don't mind if the world speaks out against me. I will serve Jesus Christ.
Be well-balanced and be self-disciplined. Be alert and cautious at all times. That enemy of yours, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, fiercely hungry, seeking someone to devour. That's the word of God according to 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. There's an old saying, when it rains, it pours. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like there's something going on in your life and it's deeper than what your eyes can see? Have you ever felt like there's something going on in your family or in your household that doesn't seem natural? Like there's some other force at work because it's one thing after another. It's attack after attack. It's battle after battle. From another perspective, have you ever felt like when things are going wrong at home, they tend to carry over in other areas of life? It's like when something is going on with your kids at home and it affects your work. Or when something is going on in your marriage and it affects your interaction with your kids. Or if something is going on at work and it affects all of the above. It quickly becomes apparent that all of these things are interconnected, and it also reminds us that if the devil can get a foothold in one area, then he has gained a foothold in all of these areas. The devil is trying in an unprecedented way to destroy families today. He wants to disrupt the family system and order. Satan knows that if the Christian family is intact, if the Christian family is working in one accord, then it's one of the strongest weapons against his deceptions. From the day that Satan spewed his lies to Eve, he was in the process of disruption. In order to maximize his deception, he approached Eve when she was alone. He approached her when she was separated from the family unit. And he did this because a divided family is easier to conquer. The devil is in the business of sowing discord and division in our homes, He's in the business of causing senseless fights and conflicts. The devil is in the business of causing husbands' hearts to stray away from their wives, and vice versa. He wants the hearts of wives to stray from their husbands. The enemy is in the business of causing children to be rebellious and to have a complaining spirit. Satan wants to destroy our households because he knows that a spiritually weak home is the easiest way to take us away from God. He's not new at this. He's been at it for a long time. The strategy of Satan is to attempt to divide and conquer the family. Immediately after that, he instigates destruction between the same family members. And the Bible is full of stories of dysfunctional families that fell to the disruption of the enemy. If Satan was able to disrupt the families of giants of faith, such as Abraham, Jacob, David, and Solomon, then we should be aware of the enemy's schemes and prepare to defend our homes. Now, when it comes to guarding ourselves and our families against the deceptions and invasions of the enemy, the first question is, how does the devil gain access to our homes and minds? How does he try to gain access to disrupt our families and our lives? One of the biggest ways that the devil gains a foothold in our families today is through media. Music, movies, and social media are huge access points to our families. Music accesses our brains and bodies in a way that few other mediums do. The messages in music today are ripe with sinful themes like lust, sex, violence, rebellion, among other sinful things. This is one of the easiest ways for Satan to gain access to our minds and souls. We listen to lyrics with this content and become desensitized to it. Before we know it, we begin to think that these sinful themes are not so bad, and lust, fornication, violence, and rebellion have taken root in our hearts and in our homes. Along these same lines, movies and television are perfect pathways for the enemy to take root in our homes. We constantly watch things full of violence, sex, cursing, and all kinds of other images that lodge themselves in our brains and hearts. Studies have shown that by 5th grade, the average child has seen 8,000 murders on television. Think about that. Think about how Satan might be using that to gain a foothold in our households. Not to mention all of the blatantly demonic content in TV and movies. There are full movies and shows directly about demons, spirits, and evil spiritual forces that we readily let into our homes. We are literally opening the door for Satan to come and dwell in our homes. The same goes for social media, which has all of these same elements, but also has the added seduction of obsession with self, image, and other people's opinions. The question for us now is, how do we resist the wiles of the devil in our families? How can we close the doors through which the enemy can enter? First, we can be much more vigilant about the entertainment choices we allow in our households. We need to monitor all the content in our homes in one way or another. An additional strategy when it comes to safeguarding our homes and families is that we should cultivate regular family worship and devotional time together. If a family is starting or ending their days in prayer, worship, and Bible study, that makes it much more difficult for the devil to get a foothold in that family. That family has girded themselves with the belt of truth and the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. Taking up this armor of God in our families is what will guard them against the deceptions and temptations of the enemy. Let us put on the armor like spiritual warriors. Let us guard our homes from the enemy. Let us resist the devil, and he will flee from us.